Hello everybody, hope you're doing marvellously well. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the Nugen Focus Bundle, which is 3 lovely plugins. And of course, we're going to be doing a giveaway of 3 copies of this bundle. So please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the like button if you liked the video, and leave a bunch of comments and questions below. Of course, you can enter to win one of 3 copies of this bundle as well. There's a link down there. One thing that's really, really cool about these plugins is we're using in a rock and roll setting, but I wanted to say this early on before we get really stuck into this. One of the things that's really cool about this is sound design. For a lot of you that are doing really cool effects and you want to position stuff in certain situations, this is going to be really important. It's not just rock and roll mixing, or in this case, like, retro Atlantic soul stacks mixing. These are going to be very, very useful plugins if you're doing sound design. If you're also doing movie and film and TV work, traditionally we're given DAT tapes and Nagra tapes, but now like mono recordings, 2 mic recordings, and you're spending time fixing it up, making it sound good, maybe getting rid of noise and hiss and hum and whatever that happens in a lot of these recordings. But not only that, you're going to be able to spatialize them, put them in places, manipulate them to do fun things. So that's all just the vocal stuff. Now think about all of the music you're being sent. That's like stereo files, and you're trying to make them more stereo or less stereo, or make it so that just the low end is super, super mono so you can have dialogue. There's so many cool reasons to use these plugins beyond just a mix. So here I have quite a dense mix. But what I like about this mix is there's a lot of elements that I can mess around with and create stereo. I've used this song before, Katie Laurel's Hurricane, to illustrate, or Hurricane if you like, but Hurricane, to illustrate taking some mono sources or not very wide stereo sources that I created and making them feel wider. So why don't we take this little piano part here, which is my C7, so let's grab the Stereoizer. Here it is. Let's engage this IID. Now the IID here, they're describing it in quite detail. They're calling it the interaural intensity difference. It's an algorithm that uses the principle that sound can be localized using the difference in level between the left and right channels. So I've enabled it here. Here's the width here. We're off here. It's definitely adding some stereo width. It feels like it's been stereo mic'd. It doesn't feel like it's suddenly gone super left, super right. Now, this isn't a particularly full range signal, so it's not going to do too much if I start messing with the frequencies, but let's have a look. Okay, so I've gone full wide on left and right there. Let's pull this down. This is the frequency selection. Oh, wow. Interesting what it's doing there. Like, when I've brought this down here, I mean, first of all, it's significantly louder. It seems to have brought up a lot of the ambience, which also is helping it feel a little wider. So this is linking the IID to the ITD. Now the ITD, interaural, that name again, time difference. It says the algorithm that uses the principle that sound can be localized using the difference in the time of arrival from left to right channels. This is a subtle manipulation, so not, of course, as the more usual house effect or simple phase shifting. This effect, unlike the simple implementations of ITD concepts, is also fully mono-compatible. You know, I'm just messing around like crazy here, and it's definitely changing the tonality in a nice way. I'm going to make it go to mono. I'm going to hit the auto function. Okay, that was nice. Didn't know what it was going to do till I hit it. So I hit the auto function and it's now balanced the input and the output. So now we're not hearing this massive gain difference between the effect being on and off. So in bypass, this is how loud it is. Now take the bypass off. It's definitely creating the additional width in the stereo that we want to hear, but without it getting louder. So let's hear what that sounds like in the track. Okay, I immediately like what it's doing there because it's getting out of the way of the vocal. It's just giving a little bit of dancing left and right, very subtle. Let's copy this down, the exact settings and everything, to the strings. I want to see what it sounds like on the strings. Here's bypassed. Out of bypass. It's definitely 100% helping my mono image. It's helping everything that's sitting down the center, like the vocal, bass guitar, any kind of kick and snare. Not that we have that in this song, but anything that's slant down the middle. By just making it dance a little wider apart, it's actually easier to hear the parts. Now, I've gone absolutely insane on it. Because these are only individual elements, I'm making them as stereo as possible. So let's hear the two things together. So let's see what it sounds like on a stereo bus with very, very incredibly complex stuff, because now everything is going down this, not just, you know, individual elements. We've seen what it's done, what it will do if we pan everything super wide and mess with it and exaggerate it. So first thing I'm going to do is obviously use the auto function. And it's reading it here. So no volume difference. On a default, to be honest, on a default, it just adds width to our mix in a really, really nice way, and in the way they've defaulted it to do. So hands off, not touching anything. Bypass. Now, I've got a lot of elements on my mix that can give me that stereo, so I'm not even sure if I'll be reaching for this specifically to put on my master bus. Now, don't get me wrong, if you've been given something to master, or you've been given like a couple of elements and there's no way you can make them sound wide, this could probably really help you out. I like this on the default because it's set subtly. I like the way they've done it. It's just adding some additional width. I'm going to try the Stereoizer on this vocal double to just see if we can get it to sit around the lead vocal a little bit, because we only have one double. Let's see if we can surround the vocal a little bit, the default.
I keep saying I can't keep playing this game.
Pretty darn good already.
But I keep finding myself inside of the same old same hurricane. I keep saying I can't keep playing this game.
I like what it's doing already. Okay, so that's with the lead vocal obviously playing it. Let's just go crazy and manipulate it so it's super wide.
I keep saying I can't keep playing this game, but I keep finding myself inside of the same old same hurricane. Oh, 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 hurricane. Oh, 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 hurricane. Oh, oh, oh. I keep saying I can't keep playing this game.
Doing some interesting thing with the delays because those are printed on it.
I keep saying I can't keep playing this game.
So this is like absolutely over the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, let's find one of their presets, vocal space, Vox space. So let's see what that does. Here's bypassed.
I keep saying I can't keep playing this
now the effect.
But I keep finding myself
bypass.
Inside of the same old same hurricane. Oh, 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 hurricane. Oh.
All right, let's try it with the vocal, lead vocal with this effect.
I keep saying I can't keep playing this game.
Bypass.
But I keep finding myself inside of the same.
The verb back on the double.
Same hurricane. Oh, 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 hurricane. Oh.
Oh, it's a dramatic difference now. Okay, so here's bypassed and unbypassed.
I keep saying I can't keep playing this game.
Almost like a phasing effect because the vocals are so tight to each other. Now, let's put the effect on.
I keep saying I can't keep playing this game.
Bypass it again.
But I keep finding myself inside of the
effect on.
same old same.
It's moving a little bit around the lead vocal, helping the lead vocal to push forward. There's a lot of effects I do, vocal thickening effects to do this, so this is really kind of tasty. Let's have a listen.
I keep saying I can't keep playing this game, but I keep finding myself inside of the same old same hurricane.
That's pretty awesome. So that's a great one to take your mono double and just make it more exciting. I printed that with a tape delay on it, so we had some fun with it. So there you go. That's what it will do to our mono source, and that is me taking one of their presets. When in doubt, try out the preset, Vox Space. I think the plugin that I most want to hear on a standard stereo bus is the next one, which is the Monofilter. Because this grabs hold of the bass and roots it really solidly down the middle. That's what they're claiming. Now, why am I talking about this? Because, you know, Luca was talking about, and many other people are talking about monoizing things. So the Monofilter like is going to pull things to the middle. So why don't we do that? Let's grab the Monofilter here. And this was what I wanted to do the other day on the live stream and didn't have an opportunity to do. Is like, it already defaults here where it's at 200 and, oh, I think it's set actually to 163. Let's go to 200. Grab it here. So basically it starts at 200 and it pulls everything to the center at 88. So it's a gentle kind of grabbing the left and right and just starting to monoize it. Is that a word? Monoize it? I don't know if it is or not. Well, why is this good? Well, this is good because if you want width in your mixes, you want to make things sound like they're coming full left and right, this is a wonderful, wonderful tool. Because what it's going to do is it's going to take all the lows that you're selecting, which for me here is 200 and below, and make them pull towards the middle, and everything else keep it wide. The problem with having a lot of 300 and below, especially on a left and right side, is that that stuff is seen to be very, very mono. So what starts to happen is if you've got like guitars, they start to feel like they're blurred somewhere around the middle and they don't have that width that you want. And in EDM in particular, in dance music, as well as heavy guitars and rock music, this can be a big problem because you're losing this idea of width. So, because mixes get dense. So let's have a listen. Here's a bypass. Let's turn it on. Now, obviously, some of the fullness is going to go is if it's being put only in the middle. You're going to lose a little bit from the left and rights. However, of course, you can exaggerate that if you want. You can exaggerate what's going on. Now, let's have a quick look at this. So this is what's coming out of the stereo image here. And here's the mono. Now, I absolutely love this because now that I can solo that, I can start high passing things so I know how, because I can start hearing what's coming out the center. That's such a smart idea. That's really interesting. I can mess with the phase here. Like, let's put the auto on. I want to mess with it. I'm going to bring this up here. So where it goes to mono at 88, I'm actually going to make it a little higher. Let's have a listen. So here I've brought it down a little bit. So now it's at 150. So it's more about the kick, a little less about the bass. Now it makes me want to solo things. Oh yeah. So here, I can hear the piano in here. So I'm hearing the elements of the piano that are in there. This is pretty fantastic. Nothing on this whatsoever. Interesting. I've got some acoustic guitars in here. See, I'm very tempted now. This is really teaching me a lot to go in and grab some like generic EQs. We'll just go in and grab the comes free with Pro Tools Avid one and actually high pass that out. So it's not even in the electrics. Barely in it at all. I love this. It makes so much more room for the vocal. It's ridiculous. Have a listen to what it's doing with the vocal. Now, there's something that I love about all the extra warmth, don't get me wrong, when it's all panned all over the place, but listen to what it does with the vocal. Here it is before. Here's after. All right, let's go through some of these presets and see what they've given us. Pretty interesting. The hi-fi, all these different settings here are obviously to do with, EQ settings. And you can save your own user ones there. Let's have a look. No bass, no sub, mono sub. Let's go to that. So it's a great, really interesting plugin. This mono sub default is 78 and 133. I feel like that actually is the best sounding one we've done so far. Definitely allowing the low end to be really, really super focused and at the same time preserve the width. Interesting plugin. I think this is something I would play with on quite a few sources. It makes me want to go back in and think about individual elements and how you high pass guitars, how you high pass keyboards, where you want them to sit. Do you want them to be full left and full right? You know, are you trying to fill out some of the low mids on some of these instruments, or do you need that gone? I think this is a big deal, just to have the plugin and be able to do this and go to mono and have a listen. And think to myself, well, why have I got acoustic coming in down there? It's very slight. But yeah, it makes me want to high pass as much as possible. It's interesting because it's going to do a lot of good things. It's going to make me want to re-evaluate how I'm feeding my low end, how much compression I might want to apply to some of that stuff so it's more even coming out mono. It's going to be a good tool. It's going to be a very, very good tool, not just for improving your mix, but for checking elements of your mix. All right, the last one is the Stereoplacer. This plugin is a stereo positioning tool. So let's see what it will do. What can we try it on? There's a Telecaster here doing rakes, which is panned about 50%. Let's pull it up on that. Now this was recorded, it's a Telecaster, and it's recorded through the amp with the reverb on. Firstly, this graphical display here, it shows a balance between envelope and associate control points. Yowza! Oh, wow. That's so drastic what it's doing. So it's taking certain frequencies and just moving them to the left and the right. Go to something that's pretty inherent around about here. Over to my right, over to my left. It's really dramatic. Oh, I see, so I can go crazy. Oi! That's insane. Absolutely insane what it's done there. I mean, that's really naive what I did, but it works. I'm basically taking frequency bands and going left, right, pushing one more to the left than to the right. Wow, it's very interesting. Like just turning that on and off, just that really naive, dumb thing that I just did, allows, it's interesting. It sort of gives it a different, I don't know, it makes it blend more. It's definitely more Shelly Yakus, you know what I mean? It's like how Shelly was talking about how he would have multiple mics on a cab just to make the guitar feel like it was coming, it was more of a stereo image, even though it was just a mono source. So he would have like one on the left speaker, one on the right on a 212, and then a microphone in the middle just to make it feel like it was stereo. Panel one left, one right, and then put one down the middle, which was causing a little bit of phase cancellation maybe, but was also making it feel more stereo. It's interesting. It's like, you know, we spend our whole lives and understandably making sure that everything is perfectly in phase and has perfect polarity, and so we should. But this isn't messing with the polarity or the phase. It's going, okay, I'm taking one frequency and dipping it more out of the left side and dipping a different frequency out of the right, therefore making one or either the left or the right louder. Bypass. I would never put it on a vocal or something like that. It's interesting on a mono electric because it creates an artificial stereo. Wow, so this just makes me want to go through the whole song and think about how I would do all of these individual elements. The Stereoizer, for instance, makes me want to go back and really spend time high-pass filtering stuff. Even if I don't use that much of the Stereoizer, it's like, can I, decide where I'm going to put things? With the Monofilter, then I'm like, do I high-pass this? Do I high-pass that? How do I want things to appear? And maybe with the Monofilter, I would go down and just bring out the subs and the bass guitar. But then maybe with the electric guitars, I want to high pass a little higher. It's really interesting. It's making me think about how I want my stereo image to appear and what I want to be in the sides. Very, very interesting tools indeed.
I keep saying I can't keep playing.
Okay, that was really good. That was really, really good. So what I've done is I've just created a little bit of movement, where I've basically made it a little uneven on the frequencies between the left and the right. Very, very randomly what I've done. This is not science, but it's blended now that just rate guitar with the left and right. Really, really nice effect. Because they're all bussed together through a stereo. And now that feels like a more complete guitar sound. If I take it off, put it back on. That's really good. In the mix.
I keep saying I can't keep playing this game, but I keep finding myself inside of the same old hurricane.
Okay, that's a really, really fun plugin. Okay, and the best thing about these plugins is you can win one of 3 copies. Nugen have kindly given us 3 to give away. So please enter below. I think I could have fun with these all day. And I'm going to have fun with them because they've given us some to use. Hopefully the code won't run out too quickly and I'll get to fall in love with them and use them a lot. But I do love the idea of being able to manipulate the sound like this. Not everything should sound like it's left, right, or center. I do love mixes that have a lot of depth. And one of the things that we're really enjoying about Dolby Atmos, for those of us that have got to sit in the rooms with that, is the fact that now everything is panned around you and feels like you're really in a room. This is a nice little trick. This one plugin alone is definitely worth the price of admission for me, let alone the Stereoizer and of course the Monofilter. But I do love what this is doing here. It's really kind of nifty. And it was good for a dumb guy like me. There are so many more controls that you can do than what you're doing there. But on a basic level, it worked really, really well for me. Anyway, have a marvelous time recording and mixing. Thank you ever so much for watching. And leave any comments and questions below. And I'll see you all again very, very soon.